welcome to Living and Learning. I'm Allison Kinnear with Voice of Her Own, and every week I hop onto Facebook Live at 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time and talk about living and learning. Today is a special day. Today is New Year's. Happy 2020 to everyone. It is so good to be back on, and I wanted to take a moment this month in January to talk about intentions, because so many people are talking about resolutions. Do you have them? Do you not? What do you focus on? This is a great time to kind of pause and reset ourselves for launching forward. And before we start talking about intentions, I want to take a moment to talk and pause and reflect upon 2019, about what do you do before you set the intentions, because this is so critical and it's so easily overlooked. I know for me, I always kind of had my sights set forward. It was like I was just going to set goals for the next year and move towards getting them. And I would do a little bit of reflection, and I love seeing people's reflections on Facebook recently, where they're looking back at the last decade of their lives and noticing how much their lives have changed in so many ways. And what I have found to be incredibly valuable is to do more of that reflection, but to do it a little bit more in depth than just kind of a surface level broad strokes. Because every year before moving forward, I would kind of do a surface level, like, wow, what a year. So many things have changed, or this thing happened, or that thing happened. But what I have found to be so much more valuable is to really do a deeper dive. And I wanted to share a quick little story about it and share a new tool that is going to be available to all of you. Hello, Alicia. Hello, Allie. Happy New Year. Yay. So glad you're here. So when I was working before, and I was working at Google, I had a very full work life, and everything was kind of geared towards the next thing. What are we doing next? What are we doing next? And we didn't really pause, or I should say, I didn't really pause to look back at what had I accomplished. And it's so easy to get caught up in feeling like you just never are doing enough. You know, it's just never enough. There's never enough work to be done. There's never enough of your time, never enough of so much. But the role that I moved into next after that, it was encouraged at this time of the year to pause, to look back at the entire year and to write a summary of all that took place for the stakeholders, so that they could know what was happening, not just things that they were aware of, but what was happening behind the scenes. And that work, what I ended up doing was like looking at my calendar week by week by week. And now I was used to doing this. I did this at review times, but I had never done it in an in-between review time. It was kind of another time to pause and look back. And while I went into that process thinking, oh my gosh, I have so much work to do. It hasn't been enough. There's so much more that I could be doing, that I should be doing. And I don't feel like I've accomplished anything. I mean, yes, I've had some wins along the way, but I really don't think it's been that much, because I felt so much time I spent so much time feeling inadequate, so much time feeling like it just wasn't enough. When I paused and looked back, it was incredible how much work I had been doing behind the scenes, in front, that was very impactful to people, all of it. And once I started kind of collecting that data, it was amazing to write this summary. And what I ended up feeling was far more confident. My inner critic was really put in check, because the inner critic will only focus on the negative things, the not good enoughs, the failures, the mistakes. And when we look back and really go week by week, we can see the vast amount that we have accomplished. And to see that, what it ends up doing is it puts that inner critic in perspective. We need our inner critic. It's not terrible to have it. It keeps us safe in a lot of ways. The problem is when we let it run rampant. And if we don't do a realistic check on all that we have accomplished, if we don't allow ourselves to look at that, then our inner critic will loom large, and it will feed your imposter syndrome. It will undermine your confidence. It will undermine your efforts moving forward, and it will also possibly take you off track when it comes to the resolutions or the goals or the intentions that you hope to set. This is why pausing and really looking back at the past year and really taking a moment to celebrate what has happened, the work you have done, both personally and professionally, is so valuable. Writing that letter and kind of summarizing my accomplishments in the workplace environment, not only did it help me have a more accurate point of view on all that had transpired, but it also gave a window into my work for my manager and my skip level to know what I was doing outside of performance review time. So this is why it's so important to do this kind of work. And we can do this whether we're working or not. I mean, or not, right? Whether we're getting paid or not, because some of you may be at home with the kids and you're not necessarily getting paid for what you do, but you are still accomplishing a lot. So taking a moment to pull off our personal calendars, either off the wall or to take a look at them on the computer and look at all the amazing things that took place, all the demands on our time, to reflect back on all that has transpired is just so powerful before we set those intentions, before we set those resolutions. If you've already set your intentions and resolutions for next year, great. This is still something that can help inform moving forward. It can still help you keep that inner critic in check and help you kind of stay focused. So I created a tool for you. Yay! And hello, welcome Lorraine, welcome Erica. My apologies on the crap print job, but my printer gunked out on me at the last minute. It is the Mindful New Year, 2019 to 2020 that I created. It's 11 questions. That's it, 11 questions. It's 12 pages long, but the pages are, it's like, that includes the cover letter, that includes the about me at the back. But most of them are just big pages here for you to brainstorm, to draw, to doodle, to write, and reflect, to close out 2019 before launching into 2020. So let me see here. Alicia, you have a comment, and yes, resolutions. Oh my gosh, Alicia and I, we have history. What are your thoughts about reflecting on a year that was really hard or painful? The act of reflection is challenging but necessary and kicks up the pain again. How to pull the best out of it. Maybe it's about seeing the strength of being able to get through it. Absolutely. So that's so glad you asked that question, Alicia, because sometimes we don't want to look back. We're like, pardon me, I'm going to drop an F-bomb here. Like, fuck 2019. I'm all done. See you later. Let's put it in the rearview mirror, and we can keep our hopes set forth on 2020. And that is fine. I understand that, especially after a really rough, terrible year. And at the same time, I think what happens is that, so there's a lot of brain research that shows that our brains are like Velcro with the negative experiences and like Teflon with the positive experiences. And what I mean by that is that our brains will really remember and hold on to the negative experiences, and the positive experiences will like slip off our radar. It will just slip out of our brain. So the point of looking back and reflecting is not to relive the pains, but rather to see the times that, to see the positives, to remind ourselves of the positives that have happened. So we're not going back with the lens of wanting to beat up ourselves. That is not what we're talking about here. Going back with the lens of saying, what were the events that took place in my life? And even if they were painful, what were the accomplishments? What were the joys? What were the possibilities? It's so corny. I just watched Captain Marvel this past week. And there's this amazing scene in it towards the end. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it reminded me of something my husband says to my kids all the time, which is, why do we fall? So we can get back up. That is why we fall. So we can look back at 2019 and look at the falls, or we can look back on 2019 and look at the times we got back up. So it's not to dismiss the pain, and it's also not to relive it, but it's to remind ourselves, because our brains will slip the times that we get back up. It will just not remember those times, but to look at the joys, to look at the times that we got back up and to celebrate those, because we often don't give ourselves credit for that. And I would say, go gentle with yourself. If it feels too much, it feels too much. Then you can still go, one of the things that I have in here, and you might want to, I want to read the questions to you, these 11 questions, so you kind of have a sense. What worked well in 2019? What are you grateful for? What do you want to celebrate? That's how we start out. So that's what you're looking back at 2019. What do you want to celebrate? What are you grateful for? What didn't work well? What was hard, messy, or unfinished? And so to bring some closure to that, or just even to acknowledge that messiness that happens in life. Then there's an opportunity to do what I just described. Look through the stats of life. Go through week by week, go through month by month, and kind of take a look, work-wise, professionally, take a look at what transpired. And then I wrote a little closing of 2019 prayer, like a little prayer, a little meditation. And it goes like this: in closing this chapter, a new one begins. The past is a story we have written, but the ending is still ours to write. I forgive myself for all that is left unsaid, undone, dormant, or painful. I forgive myself for my follies and mistakes. I forgive others who wronged me. I know this forgiveness does not mean that I agree with their actions, but rather that the acceptance of this reality frees my future. I welcome a new dawn, a new day, a new year, and a new decade. I close out 2019 in peace with blessings for the future. And so it is. So even to get through and get to the closing prayer, and then what comes after closing out 2019 is a beautiful little visioning exercise and thinking about the possibilities for the future. So it basically walk you through, invite you to do a little meditation, use your imagination for an empowered 2020. What aspects of your work life do you want to focus on next year? What goals or visions do you have? What aspects of your personal life do you want to focus on next year? What is one step you can take to help you achieve your work vision? What is one step you can take to help you achieve your personal vision? What is one piece of advice you need to hear? And should you stray from your goals or visions, what's going to hold you accountable? So that is it in summary. This is yours. This is free. This is complimentary. I encourage you to download it, print it off at home, work through it, play with it, have fun with it, share it with others. I will be sending this to you. Alicia, I hope that helps you answer your question. Next week, so today I wanted to focus on the importance of closing. Like, we really want to close the door before walking through the next door. And just because it's already January 1st does not mean a thing. This year, last time, my dad died right before Christmas last year. So this time last year, I could not vision. I could not close out. I was in a state. I did not do this work until February. So if it is February 1st is your New Year's Day, so be it. Take the time. The day is arbitrary, but take the time to really close the door on 2019 and before walking through to 2020. Next week, we will be talking about intention setting. And because I know so many of us are thinking about it. I will share the link to get your guide in the comments. Please feel free to share, and I will see you next week. I wish you a wonderful week of living and learning. If you have feedback about the guide, I welcome it so much. What's working, what's not. And I wish you a wonderful week, a wonderful 2020, a wonderful closing of 2019, and I'll see you next week. Bye.